and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to cover the Bard's College of Eloquence class specialization from Tasha's Guide to Everything, providing a brief description of the subclass, as well as explain and set up the various features gained. As you might guess, the bards of this college learn the art of speech and would be considered equal to today's speakers at debate clubs. They would most likely be the kind of bard who would use poetry to entertain crowds, but be just as comfortable taking on a political speech or some form of key speaking engagement. Another role these bards could fulfill would be that of a diplomat, as some of the features they gain will help in those kinds of situations. But through this training, they've learned to be able to weave magic into their words to be able to accomplish some pretty surprising things. As per other bard videos, this video will focus strictly on the subclass, so if you need to understand how to set up a base bard, please click the links in the description below where I go into detail on how to create and level the base bard class itself. Bards get to choose their class specialization at level 3 and generally gain their first feature as soon as the subclass has been applied. So let's do that and then get into that first feature. So I'm going to make sure that this Bard is increased to level 3, and then I'm going to choose College of Eloquence as part of the subclass. Now, the first feature your character will gain is called Silver Tongue, and it allows your character to attempt to recover from a failure while attempting a persuasion or deception check. When your character attempts one of these checks, if the d20 roll is 9 or lower, it will be treated as a 10. With this 10, you can add your charisma modifier to that value in an attempt to succeed on the check. This means that if you rolled a 3 on a d20 roll for a persuasion check, before you add your character's charisma modifier to it, let's say a +3, it's rounded up to be 10 first. Then your character's +3 modifier is added to that, giving you a 13 for the total bonus. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, Fantasy Grounds really doesn't have a means of being able to provide a minimum value for a die roll, meaning that I couldn't set 10 as the floor of a d20 roll in order for a check to automatically succeed or fail through the automation. So this is going to have to be dealt with manually. There's no way around it right now. Also at level 3, your character will gain access to the Unsettling Words feature, which allows your character to hinder the resulting rolls of saving throws of a given creature that you have targeted. Instead of giving one of your party members an inspiration dice roll, you can choose to roll the dice through your own character and take the value that you rolled and apply it to another creature that would then be a penalty against any saving throw that they have made. For example, if you chose to target an orc that you knew was going to need to make a saving throw on the next turn, you could grant them an inspiration die roll that would act as a penalty on their saving throw. Let's say that they rolled an 11, and you happen to roll a 5 on the d6 inspiration die roll. The orc would then subtract 5 from 11 to make their saving throw a total of 6. But that's only if you're going to be doing that manually. Fantasy Grounds does give us the ability to do this automatically. All we have to do is drag and drop Unsettling Words into our character's Actions tab and create a new group called College of Eloquence. Once that's done, we then need to add what's called an effect action, and we'll call this Unsettling Words, semicolon, and it's going to be a save colon minus d6. And it's going to expend on the next roll. And there is no time limit on this, so we don't need to set up any specific target setting or a round or duration setting. When inside of a combat situation, instead of granting Bardic Inspiration here to a particular creature you know is going to have to make a saving throw and you want them to fail that saving throw, you would drag this Unsettling Words effect onto the target in question. So I'm targeting the Bugbear Chief in this particular case. And what you will see, and I added a 1 in here, by the way, I kind of missed the 1, although I don't think it really matters. What you will see is that this effect is now in place and it is set to expire on their next saving throw or their next roll. So I'm going to advance the turn down to the Bugbear and have them roll a strength-based saving throw. And what we should see is that they will subtract 2 from the total value. So in this case, they rolled a 9. and they got a 10 as a result. That means that their full bonus didn't apply, which was +3. So it would have been a total of 12 here. Subtract the -2 gives them 10. So this is working the way that we want it to, and the effect fell off the character, or the target in this case. That means it's working the way that we want it to. At level 6, your character will unlock the Unfailing Inspiration feature, which allows your character to provide another creature with an inspiration die roll that will be reusable until they succeed in their roll. What I mean by this is that if a character had to make a saving throw and they used their inspiration die that you had already granted them to boost the total value of their roll, and yet they still failed their saving throw, the inspiration die would remain available to them for use on their next roll, and it would continue to be available until they succeeded that saving throw. Granted, they're not going to be able to roll that saving throw multiple times on that turn unless they have special abilities to do so. There are a couple of ways that you can go about doing this. You could theoretically modify the existing Bardic Inspiration die and eliminate the on next roll part, or so that it lasts the full duration, or you can simply keep an eye on when that particular character is rolling a saving throw, and if they fail their saving throw yet they still use their inspiration die roll, just reapply the effect to the character. It's entirely up to you. I would actually recommend making the application of the Bardic Inspiration effect each time they failed on their saving throw, so just reapply the effect essentially. You don't necessarily need to add Unfailing Inspiration into your Actions tab in order to be able to accommodate the use of this particular feature, because you're primarily making use of either an altered or a similarly configured Bardic Inspiration die. The only restriction is that it doesn't seem... Yeah, it's an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, so it applies to any one of these particular checks. You could theoretically drag this into place and create a copy of this particular effect here, if you will. I'm going to copy this down and create a new effect, and then simply copy the contents of this effect and apply it here. The duration will still be 10 minutes, but it never expires. However, it would expire if they succeeded. So there's still going to be some manual manipulation in play, if you will. It's generally safer to simply make use of the existing Bardic Inspiration effect and reapply it if they continue to fail their saving throws or their attack rolls or their ability checks, whatever. Also at level 6, your character is going to gain the Universal Speech feature, and it allows your character to target a number of creatures equal to their Charisma modifier and give them the means to understand you, regardless of the language they speak. And it's your character's Charisma modifier, not their Charisma modifier, as in the target that you're talking to. All of those creatures have to be within 60 feet of where your character is currently standing. However, you might not necessarily be able to understand them, but they will be able to understand everything you say for up to 1 hour, after which the magic fails and things will return to normal. This does have a usage limitation, however, in that your character can only use it once before they will have to either complete a long rest or expend a spell slot to be able to make use of this feature again, and as you can see, there's no limitation to what level of a spell slot you use. This means we do need to add this to our character's Actions tab in order to be able to track its uses. I'm going to copy that into place, and then I'm going to set up a usage limitation here of once daily. And that way we can at least know that we have one essentially quote-unquote free use of it before we have to start going into spell slots to be able to potentially reuse it again. Now the last feature that your character is going to gain is called Infectious Inspiration, and it happens at level 14. And it gives your character the ability to essentially hand out free Bardic Inspiration whenever another creature that you have granted Bardic Inspiration to happens to use theirs. This happens as a reaction through your character, and the newly inspired creature has to be within 60 feet of where your character currently stands in order for this to work, but it will essentially give them a Bardic Inspiration point and not trigger an expended use of your own. Your character will only be able to use this a number of times equal to their Charisma modifier, so for example, this particular character could use it 4 times, before they will need to be able to complete a long rest in order to regain any expended uses. And unlike other features that we've examined so far, you don't get to use a spell slot to be able to use this once you've expended all of your existing uses. So let's go ahead and drop this into place. I'm going to make sure that that's there. Copy that to there. And in this character's case, they can use this 4 times. So I'm going to set it up for 4 daily uses. And now we have 4 pips here that we can go through and make use of it. So how does this actually work? Well, this is the tricky bit. Let's say that we've already granted this particular ape a bardic inspiration die. Set up the ape as their active turn, and they're going to use this bardic inspiration die to initiate attack on the succubus. And it's at this particular point that, regardless of whether they hit or miss, you as the bard get to choose to use your reaction to grant someone else bardic inspiration. So I could theoretically drop bardic inspiration on this wolf. I would then have to tick off 1 use of that particular bardic inspiration, infectious inspiration feature, I should say. And because this is a reaction, I have no other reactions available to this particular character for the remaining duration of this round. That means that this bard's turn would have to come back around again before they could make use of another reaction to be able to apply it. So this wolf is going to essentially get to use their bardic inspiration die, but the bard will not be able to make use of that and apply it, say, to the ape again. So there is a little bit of a balancing trait that has come into play. And while it can be a little bit tricky to get used to it, it doesn't take long in order to be able to figure that process out. So practice with it is all I would recommend you do. The College of Eloquence definitely has a few interesting options, but there are some players who are going to have issues playing this kind of character. However, with a little bit of practice, I think someone could really become good with this subclass and make use of its features to the fullest in the right campaign. And that's really what it comes down to. The class and the subclass are really going to have to match the kind of campaign your character is going through. That doesn't mean that you can't choose this subclass for any campaign that's out there, but there are some situations where a lot of the features that this subclass has just simply won't apply. The bulk of the bard features that your character is still going to gain will be applicable to most situations that you're going to run into, so it's really just a minor thing, if you will. But that does bring us to the end of this particular video. I hope you found it useful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.